to be honest. There's been lots of occasions where we've sworn quite profusely, Drew. James Dyson tends to get quite a lot.
I've said some things that we've had to chop out. I'm glad that I was editing that episode. But he's friends with Boris, and I'm not. So
exactly.
Yeah. So I always got told that working there is a bit like you're constantly trying to make out that your idea is his idea.
I think isn't that the plot to Inception, where you need to make it seem like
Right, I'm just going to tie this out the way, otherwise I'm going to tinker with it the whole way through, which is what I do every video.
Exactly, and last week we had a guest that put a hat on, and you decided to put your hat on to try.
Yeah, because I thought that's a good idea, and because in the old place, the sun had started to move around, and was shining in my eyes, so I'd noticed that on a couple of previous episodes I've been sort of like this. So without wanting to sort of shadow box my way through, I just thought, let's hat it up.
Welcome to the podcast. I think that's probably the main thing I should say. I'll ask you this, and I'll edit out if the answer's no. But have you listened to the podcast before?
Yeah, I have listened.
Okay, cool.
The way you said that's even worse.
God, have you got copious notes with you? Well, episode 3 was a real shit show.
I haven't listened to every single one, but
that's okay, Sam.
Keeping up when I can.
You've done more than most, so I respect that. But thanks for coming on. It's very strange that when I always put something out on Instagram, which says something like, "Who do you want to come on as a guest?" So like we'll put something out on our stories, and we get these people that write to us, and your name comes up all the time, to a point where I started to tally up everyone, and you're second place to Johnny Ive.
So Johnny wasn't available.
Johnny's not available. No. Well, third place was Jo Bernard, and we managed to get her on. So she's come on. You're second place. So Johnny, if anyone knows him, you've got my number. So that'd be a great guest to have on, wouldn't he, Drew? To be fair, I don't know what I'd ask him.
Yeah, I don't know. There'd be so much to go through.
We ask him what he thinks about Sam Gwilt.
But to the 3 people that don't know who you are, if you could introduce yourself, I'm presuming you've nailed this down by now because you've done videos.
Should I do my YouTube intro? No, I'll do it
just go for
Hello. My name is Sam Gwilt. I am an industrial designer working and living in London, and for the past 3 or 4 years, for the past 2 years, I've been running an education YouTube channel called Sam Does Design, and I'm also on Instagram shouting about design all the time as well.
Oh, nice. Well, you nailed that. Tell us about the YouTube thing, because I'm sure you probably get these questions quite a bit. What was the point where you thought, fuck it, I'll put some stuff on YouTube?
How did it kick off so well? Like, how did you just start a YouTube channel and have it look just really good right off the bat?
I think it all started really with Instagram, and I was in a good wave. I was at the right place, right time with Instagram, where not many designers were online, not many designers were posting stuff, and I just wanted to post. I was a student at the time, and I wanted to post sketches and say like, "Hey, I'm not very good yet, but can you like look at my sketch and tell me how to get better?" And I was just posting these sketches as often as I could. And after about 6 months of that, and people were saying, "Oh, the perspective's not right. You can do some better line weight here and there." After about 6 months, I started to get comments were like, "Oh, that's really cool. How did you do that?" And and suddenly the conversation had flipped. And it took me a while to realize, like, oh, actually, like whatever I learned in the last 6 months, I can now like pass that on. And if I can get people to follow me and we can grow this like community in space, that'd be really quite good to all learn from each other. And it was just at the beginning of when Instagram started to add video, and I was messing around with a few video clips here and there, just testing out, how the app was working. And I thought, what, if I'm going to do video, I watch a lot of YouTube myself, and I watch so many creators, and I look up to a lot of, these self-made self-taught video presenters, writers, editors, publicists, all as one person. I thought, you know what, they know what they're doing, so I'm going to replicate that. So I don't necessarily know what I'm doing myself, but if I do vaguely the same thing that they're doing, maybe it'll work out. And I posted just to see what the upload process was going to be. I was just kind of interested in the workflow of uploading a video. And I thought, oh, damn, now I've uploaded and told everyone I'm doing this channel, kind of have to carry on. And I just kind of did. And almost, I say this joke with my friends, like I'm pretending to be famous. It's like make believe presenter, like, you know, I'm pretending to be a presenter. And then if you pretend for long enough, it happens. So that's kind of the stage where I'm at now.
Yeah. As it gets to a point where you ever like, I know London's a pretty big place, but do you ever walk down the street or something, or, you know, you buy South Bank or something and like someone says, that's Sam? Has that happened? Yeah,
yeah, that's happened twice.
The outside Shoreditch.
No, it was, where was it? The first time was in the Apple store at in Regent.
Wasn't Johnny, was it?
It wasn't. No, it wasn't Johnny. It was him. And I was buying a phone at the time, and the person serving me was like, "Sorry, don't mean to, like, while you're buying it something, but are you Sam?" I was like, "Yeah." I made a great chat about that, and they weren't a designer; they just enjoyed the content. I was drawing a lot on the iPad back then, and I think they really quite enjoyed that. The second time that someone recognized me, it still shocks me to this day, because it was at a concert in London, and I was at the back near the bar, which is on my phone. My girlfriend had gone off to, I think it was to the loo or to buy a drink or something. I was on my own, and this person came out of the blue and was like, "Excuse me, you Sam?" I looked around, and I'm not going to lie, like, everybody looked pretty similar to me. And I thought, like, how are they picking out me in a crowd of, you know, glasses and curly hair type people? And I was like, yeah, and, you know, and they shook my hand and walked off. And then my girlfriend came back from wherever, and I was like, oh, someone just recognized me. And she was like, oh, perfect timing. While I'm not with you, and someone happened to come and recognize you. So she doesn't believe me, but it did happen.
Yeah. You don't know who it was?
No, I didn't know. We just shook hands. They said they liked the content and walked off, which is actually handy, because as a joke for a long time on Instagram, I kept telling people, if you recognize me out and about, tell me, say hi, and I will buy you a drink. And this person, and I was at the bar and everything, and this person obviously hadn't seen that announcement. So that saved me a $5. So that's. Yeah.
I'm just going to throw this out there. If anybody recognises me out on time, just leave me the hell alone.
Yeah. Don't go within 2 meters of me at the minute. That would be greatly appreciated.
It was a different time.
Yeah. Well, I had a different experience, Sam, just to make you laugh. I was actually on a date with my girlfriend. It was probably the first date. Right. This is bizarre. Right. I'm sat down at this place. Didn't really know her well at the time, but, you know, one of those kind of things. And she asked, "What do you do for a living?" So I said, "Oh, I do design recruitment, industrial design." She goes, "You must know Sam does design." It's like, Jesus Christ, it was a bit scary. But she's not a designer at all. But she just said, yeah, she doesn't actually know what she's watching, but she finds it quite fulfilling. So
that's true of so many things. That's why people watch Bake Off, isn't it? It's like it's like somebody making something. It's compelling.
Yeah. So was there like a moment then? I suppose you kind of already touched upon it, but was it when you hit a certain amount of subscribers, or maybe someone on your course mentioned something, or even a lecturer? Was it a bit like, there's actually something in this, right? Or was it like, oh, I'm just gonna do it for fun and see what happens?
I mean, because I watched a lot of YouTubers already, I knew that it was possible to make something from it. Yeah. So I watched, you know, a lot of MKBHD, Simone Giertz, The Tested and Adam Savage, and, you know, a lot of makers, a lot of tech people. But like you say, watching people make something, even if, you know, the Adam Savage crew at Tested, they'll release a 2-hour video of him just in the workshop painting a movie prop. and I'll sit there and watch it. Like I know that there's an audience. Like whatever you make on YouTube, there is an audience for it. And I always just thought, actually, the thing that made me pursue being online the most was I read an article. It was either in Vox or some online media place, and it was about someone who tricked TripAdvisor and set their garden shed.
I've seen this.
Yeah, the most highest rated restaurant in London, and they were like playing the internet algorithms, and it made me realize. And the other one was the same person fooled a load of companies into thinking that he knew Russell Brand and got a load of free stuff over a weekend because people thought that he was with Russell Brand and they had lots of followers, so they just sent him free stuff. And I sat there with a few followers on Instagram at that point, and I thought, you know what? If I start the ball rolling for a joke, let's pretend I'm an influencer for a while. And I emailed like 50 companies saying like, hey, I'm a designer on Instagram. This is while I was still a student, so I wanted free stuff because money was tight. I was like, I'm a designer on Instagram. I have this following. I'd love to chat about your product. Would you like to send a product over? And after 50 companies, I sent like 2 replied and 1 sent a product. And it was a phone case. And that sort of got the ball rolling where I could then start posting things like, oh, thanks to this company for sending me out, the free stuff. And then other companies would see me posting that, or other people from other companies. And then they slowly started to get in touch. And then it's like a snowball. And I never wanted to trick people into thinking I was more famous than what I was, but I knew I needed to like get the ball rolling somehow. So it's all about being genuine, and it is me. I'm not pretending to be anyone else, but there was a little bit of trying to be like that Vox person for a little bit to begin with, just to pretend, like I said, just to pretend, and then one day it might be true, and I won't need to pretend anymore. But yeah, so from the get-go, really, that was kind of how it started.
Do you think it's harder to do now?
Yeah, for sure.
Because I think every like we've started doing lectures and stuff, so we'll go out to the universities and I ramble at kids basically for about an hour and they pay me for it, so it's fantastic. Nice. And but like they all have their little design Instagram account. It's almost like you could take credit for it, but like paved the way for them to do that as like a course of right, go into final year, set myself up a little personal brand. But it does seem a lot harder now to differentiate from the pack. Yeah,
I really think that I was in the right place, the right time, and there was even people before me that had a really large following, and I was on 300, 400 followers at the time, and they seemed eons ahead into and I think the difference is that once they sort of got there with the big following, they kind of stopped posting. That was kind of like a checkbox for them. I'm not going to name names, but people that I thought I would never reach in terms of community stopped posting. And I think the difference with me is that I've continued for the last 2 or 3 years since then.
Interesting. You mentioned community a couple of times, and of course, because you're an avid listener, you'll know that that Brad and I wanted to start this to try and build on that community. It caught my interest that was some of your motivation. I think you've mentioned, all right, you've got to play the game a little bit. You got to try and convince people that it's worth their while, or convince companies that it's worth their while in sending you something that you can talk about. But the fact is, you want to talk about it, so you will do what you've promised to do. And that it very much comes across that you've got genuine intentions. I think that's probably why it's so relatable.
Well, I hope so, because I think that's the key point, is that I don't want to steal from companies and sell crap to people. Like buy this thing.
Like Arsenal Fan TV. I don't know if anyone ever watches Arsenal Fan TV, but you might not be football people, but like anyone that's watching it, they'll just throw sponsors at you like they're going out of fashion, and they're nothing to do with football. Like it's just like throughout the whole video, like from one side of the screen to the other, sponsored by. It's like fair play.
But then people, audiences are smart and they will just switch off. And particularly on YouTube, if I put a sponsor in that people are interested in, there's millions of other people to watch. But I think it's a genuine, and the companies that I've worked with, particularly Skillshare, I'm really quite proud to work with them, because it is about learning and growing as a person and things like that.
So what is it a bit like Masterclass?
Yeah, so Skillshare, it's like Masterclass, but not quite as polished. It's kind of like a mix between Masterclass and YouTube.
Okay, so like Gordon Ramsay teaching you how to make a shepherd's pie.
Exactly. Yeah, it's not the celebrities doing it. It's they are professionals, and they are professional creatives or from all walks of life, of like writers and accountants, even like how to do accounting for creators. But they do these sort of 1 hour classes, and they talk you through the step by step, and they kind of give you some homework, and you go away and do it and upload it, and then you can all chat about it in the like a forum thing. So that I think is a great value to a design audience, because there are courses they can watch and that I have watched to level up my skills. Everything I know about cameras came from Skillshare. So to be able to pass that on to people and not just take any crap that's available and just sell it to people, really provide value, I think is really quite like you mentioned, try and be as authentic about it as possible. And I'm really upfront with everyone. Like I'm like, this is an advert.
I think if we ever do an ad, I think it would be the most sarcastic thing you've ever watched in your life, where me and Drew will just rinse the crap out of the company probably for about 10 minutes, and that's why no one would want to work with us, Drew. But like I couldn't do it in ultra serious kind of selling a product mode. I couldn't do
like
it.
when we've talked about this before, I'm really only interested in
Carhartt.
Well, yeah, Carhartt. I want Carhartt sponsorship. I'll take Lexus, that's fine. But no, it's in terms of design products or design like the tools and things, I would want to advertise, and I won't name any of them, but like the things that I genuinely use. Because let's say, for example, if I was using Copic and then Prismacolor said, let's do it, I was like, oh, let me have a go, at least at first, and then if I think that I haven't worked with those before, I think you've got to be able to stand behind it, otherwise it's just very embarrassing. You feel like if you're out there hawking a load of crap that just because they've offered you some money, you're like, well, this has become something that it isn't, and then the word truth in design truth rings hollow. So we'd rather do it for nothing and be able to stand up straight and
Yeah, that's true. And that's a good point actually about like rival brands. If you've been a bit of an advocate for one brand and then another brand comes along, it's tricky, because I've actually done that in the past where I will name them. I haven't worked with them since, but that's a timing thing. I really respect what they're doing, but I just haven't had a chance to learn. I worked with Gravity Sketch on VR sketching, and they approached me like, hey, you do modeling on you do modeling on the iPad, you do modeling on the PC, come and do modeling like in VR. And I was like, yeah, great. Like I can advocate your products. And okay, they were like, okay, we need the video in like 2 weeks or whatever, blah, blah, blah. And like I got the headset and the Gravity Sketch, and I could not use the app at all. And I was like, I'm going to need 2 or 3 weeks, months to learn how to use this properly. My vision's not great. I can't see in 3D. And it's a 3D sketching app. And I had to email back saying, look, I know we wanted to do this like video about how great the app is, but I really need to tone that back and say like, this is how I learned how to use the app. as a beginner because I can't do it like a master. And but that was a conversation. But the same way, like you said with the pens, if you used to using Copic or whatever, and then Prismacolor send you a bunch over, and they blend differently, or the colors are different, and then the content you produce is not as nice as your usual work. That kind of shows as well. So yeah, it's affected me.
It might be better. Yeah, it might be better to just to try something different, no matter which way you're switching. Try something different. You might improve. That's very cool. Sometimes I'm really aggressive. Right now, I'm on that ebb where I'm just ditching 3D CAD of all kinds. I feel like it makes me, just from a personal point of view, I feel like it makes me focus on the wrong stuff at the wrong time. Like if I need to get something into molding or into rapid prototyping, that's the time. But up until then, I need to be able to pick things up and like find the shapes. And again, like Brad knows that I'm a bit of a blue foam nerd.
Blue foam.
Yeah, blue foam. Blue foam, red wine, black wine. That's the prism. But yeah, that's just the way that I like to work and the way that I like to think and the way that I like to explore how I think you might use something. And then at the end, when you're like, right, okay, here's the size of this radius, that's when I can get into, for me, Creo. And I'm going to keep saying Creo because if they'll sponsor us, then that's perfect for me.
Well, they'll have more money than SolidWorks, surely. Their budgets will be bigger. Creo will be they'll have more money to spend than SolidWorks, surely. They give it out for free, didn't they, SolidWorks?
SolidWorks is expensive.
Is it?
Yeah.
I thought they gave it to students. I thought they gave it to students for nothing, so they rope them in on it.
Students, but not fully grown adults.
But the students, you know what I mean? I'm pretty sure they did that as a strategy. Get all the students roped in on it, and then employees feel like they have to use it because.
So at Bournemouth, we had then it was called Pro Engineer Wildfire. In fact, Pro Engineer 14, then Wildfire, and everything was right click, mouse button, horrible drop down menus, and it was an absolute pig to use. So then, when the third years in Maya went out to do industrial placement, most industry was using SolidWorks. Those that had been using SolidWorks for a year came back and was like, oh, draw the shit out of this in no time. But no, uni had been giving out student licenses for what is now Creo. But I must admit, at that time, I was fully SolidWorks because I hated using Wildfire. It was just really difficult. Felt like the user interface was just horrible. I couldn't get my head around it at all. I remember we had a project, a little task to draw a 3-pin plug, and it took me weeks and weeks and like a lot of tears and like wall punching. I think basically I'd punched the wall that many times that all I could do was very lightly click a mouse by the end of the project. And I think I copied a lot of it off my mate because he was getting good at it. And then you use SolidWorks and you're like, oh wow, this is easy. This is just making shapes. It's easy. But then now it's kind of it's a bit switched around in my mind, and having used the surfacing side of things as well a lot more. Anyway, I'm not trying to. I would like to get sponsored by something like that. That would be useful. I would endorse it, and I'm not trying to do that right now, so I'll be quiet.
Well, you've given it a good go.
I've given it a good go, and if Carhartt want to send me any more dungarees, I'm up for it.
If I was Deborah Mead enough, that I would be saying thanks, but I'm out. I think that's probably how I would respond. Probably how I'd respond to that. But so when you first started out, Sal, I'm presuming did you have all the kit and stuff? Like,
no, I'm only just sort of getting the kit now. I mean, I've been on a one-man band on a MacBook for years, and my first few YouTube videos are on phone, and I've recently bought a PC for rendering and stuff. I don't know if it's this thing in the background. And I've always been an advocate of like, you don't need the kit to do well in design. Whereas now secretly I'm like, okay, but actually I am getting the kit. So when I did share to Instagram that I've got this PC and everyone's saying, what are the specs? I might buy what you're buying. And I'm like, I'm in a very fortunate position right now where I can get this due to, YouTube and stuff and things that I've worked for 4 or 5 years. And it is not a necessity to get this machine, but I've kind of lost, and, up until this point, I've just been on a MacBook, and I've kind of lost those rights to tell people that now. But I still advocate, you don't need all the kit, you don't need all the camera equipment. You want to get going.
Yeah. So to anyone starting out, if they want to be a design YouTuber or whatever they call these people, your phone will get you by. Your iPhone, that's all you really need.
If you want to film stuff, make sure there's plenty of light. The phone will thank you for that. I think there's too light on me at the moment, actually. I might go and change my camera settings, but the sun's just coming through. But as long as there's enough light to film on your phone, it's going to be great. And as long as you have a computer, a laptop, or whatever that can open the program, you can get started. Whether or not it crashes or not is a different matter. But there is a point in your skill set where the fact that the program crashes, like your skill is limiting your progress when you first start out. The fact that the program crashes is by the by, that's fine, because your skill is limiting. When your skill set overtakes the crashes and then the crashes become the issue, then you're probably in a good point then where you can start to upgrade and think about upgrading, but it's not needed because you can have the fastest machine in the world, but if your skill set is just like learning where the UI is and what buttons to press, it's not gonna help. So I always say, and particularly I do a lot of key shot rendering. I do a lot of rendering for product visualization, and it doesn't make for better renders. It just makes for faster renders. And if you're rendering one thing at a time, a slow render is no issue. But if you're in my position where you need to render 30 images overnight for a client, then that's where it starts getting a bit more official and maybe when the PC could do with upgrading. So
yeah. Do work help out with those kind of things? I mean, like
we have all the PCs at work are plenty fast enough.
Yeah.
This is for my own sort of enjoyment and doing stuff at home. This setup here, but yeah. We use PCs at work where I'd never used PCs for the last 10 years or so by the time I got to work at Leia. So even just figuring out how to copy and paste was was a slap in the face. But I think I'm up and running now. I know what I'm doing a bit more.
Yeah, cool. I suppose I have to ask you because I get asked these questions quite a bit, but what is it like to work at somewhere like Leia Design? It seems to be one of those agencies where I talk to quite a few people out in the States, for example, and it feels like an agency is a bit more Silicon Valley-esque in comparison to maybe some of the more, in comparison to maybe some of the more traditional UK agencies. I think maybe culturally and the way it works, it feels a bit more stateside than over here. But with that, always seems to perk a lot of interest. So, what's it like to work there?
I feel like I can preface this by saying, like they say on Twitter, like all opinions are my own. I'm not the voice of my.
And what we'll do is we'll send this to you before it goes live, and you'll skip straight to the answer of this question, and you'll go, "Will my boss like my answer to this?" Yeah. You'll probably go, "Probably not." Brad, can you take this bit out? And in the world,
BBC. And
you'll never see the clip to this till about 10 years later when it pops up on Panorama or something. And unseen footage. One of those.
I mean, I had heard stories before joining about what it might be like, about the fast pace, the workload, the long hours, and from the stories that I had heard back then and the way that I'm sort of doing day to day now, it does seem like it has improved. I am still fully committed to working, and sometimes that does mean, and I'm sure with any company, the late nights to get stuff ready for the client meeting in the morning. It's not the only company that does that. Everybody who works there is fully committed. and it's a great bunch of people to work with. I'm learning so much. It's insane. And I think that's why a lot of people stay for as long as they do, because it's just non-stop learning new things. I know that
I'd imagine the work's pretty good, right? The projects you guys must get in must be quite a big part of it, I'm sure.
That is a perk. But with any consultancy, the work that people see when it's the press, or people, Layer have recently just launched a new Bang & Olufsen speaker. But the thing is, with these product pipelines, I joined in January last year, and that project was already wrapped up when I joined. So I managed to do some renderings for press, like the press release. I managed to get some renderings in, so I can. That's my checkbox. I've worked for Bang & Olufsen.
Put the logo on the folio. Bang. Put it in there. Yeah.
But it's because designs take a long time to go through production and ramp up. So it is a long time, and I've even seen people online saying, "Oh, Sam, have you worked on this Bang & Olufsen project? Have you done all this?" I was like, "No." And
has that been part of your learning, do you think? If you think about when you started off as a bit of a YouTuber, when you all started, and now you're probably 4 years out of like life, I suppose, and like work and all that kind of stuff. I've started to notice this in you, but I've started to notice that maybe your views on things are starting to change a little bit. And I think that I've always found that to like, when I've done recruitment for those that you speak to initially when they're like fresh out of school, and then you talk to them, like I always jokingly say, come back to me once you've had a job and I'm sure your views on the world will change. And just a jokingly thing you would say. But do you start to feel like now you've done agency for 4 years, your kind of view on design, and you can speak with a bit more authority now, like in terms of got a bit of stuff that's reached market, and of the internal pressures and politics and dealing with decision makers and stakeholders? I'm sure, Drew, you've obviously been doing it for a little bit longer as well. But do you start to feel like your views on things are starting to change now you've started to go over that initial honeymoon period of landing a design gig? Now it's like, okay, this is probably the rest of my life. So have you started to form a bit more of a view on the industry and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, I actually, it was a big shock to me, because when I did graduate, it was the first time in my life where the next 3 or 4 years wasn't set in stone and planned out. Like all through school, all through university, I knew that this will happen and then this will happen. And that, and there was very rigorous steps to go through. And then and I actually gave a talk about this at my old university for their graduation event. And I said, when you're in university, it feels like you're going through a forest, and every tree is a deadline where you're just, everything, you're just rushing through and you're just doing deadline after deadline for each individual module. And then when you graduate, you just come out into this clearing, and you finish the forest, and it's just vast. Because you're not pinned down to the next 3 or 4 years of your life. It's like, okay, this could be the next 60 years. It's a little bit daunting to think, okay, what now? And it does change. I graduated in 2017, so I'm getting to the point now where I'm less of a junior.
Yeah, midweight, would you say now? I know the things in like.
Yeah,
brackets, but that transition.
I think I'm about there. Whether or not that pops up on LinkedIn this week, next week, 6 months' time, I don't know. But I do stuff outside of Layer. If we talk about juniors assisting, and then mids beginning to start leading where a project is going, or being more client side. I'm really lucky in that I have, some of my outside stuff where I'm a bit more client side, with the YouTube sponsored videos and I know how to talk with clients in that respect, and to guide where the project may go, and then to manage expectations and all that. So I do feel like, even though it's not on LinkedIn or wherever that I am as a bona fide mid-weight, I feel like in other aspects I'm getting there. And it does change the outlook, because I think an issue that I thought I may have, particularly with YouTube, where I'm very much positioning it as, I'm not an expert. I learned this yesterday, so you can learn it today. That's kind of like the thing. And I'm wondering, like, if I keep with that for a long time, will people just never see me as the expert, even though I have all this experience? Will people just see me as the graduate student who's doing YouTube now? Mm-hmm. And I've tried with a few projects to show some progression, to show some more.
I suppose with those long lead times, though, Sam, if it takes so long to get to market, you probably haven't got there yet, right? Because you're still in that waiting game of, look, give me 2 years, guys, and I'll show you the world. Yeah.
Well, I've been really lucky, actually, in like sure, whatever project with Leia, that's almost by the by. But the fact that I've been able to work with, there's a company called Gantry out in America, and they do 3D printed lights with designers around the world. And once you submit a design, if the timing works right and they're not working with 1,000 other designers, which I think they are at the moment, they're really busy, but I managed to work with them at a time where the lead time was 6 months. So out of university and then launching the first product in America was pretty fast. And I learned a lot along the way, and I've gone back to do a second lamp with them as well. So I'm lucky in the sense that, even though some of the bigger projects with the companies like Leia that I work at take a lot longer, I've got stuff ticking along, adding to the bow to the string, or the string to the bow, or whatever.
I think it's strings to
adding them together. Yeah. Can I interject a little bit, because you mentioned something just a moment ago about, I learned this yesterday, so you can learn it today. I think keep that on. I think that is a constant in the next. I mean, you said 60 years. Yeah. When did I graduate, Brad? 2004. So, well, yeah. So like 15 years in, and I'm getting to a point now where I actually feel like I'm in another clearing, and that the shape of my career has just changed around me, because sometimes the universe just shakes things up a little bit, let's say. So yeah, I've been a bit bewildered by the options. One thing I was trying to do this time around, which is different to when I graduated, I want to get your advice to students on this, is I went for what gets me a job so I don't have to move in with my mum and dad again, right? How do I avoid moving home? And I took that job. Mm-hmm. What's your take?
Yeah, I mean, I know a lot of friends of mine who went to live back home, and I think the press have called us like Generation Boomerang, where we all go out to uni and then we just, like a boomerang, head back in again. And I was extremely lucky. Again, I think a lot of my career up until now is right place, right time, where I did an internship for 6 months and they were hiring after it. So they said, well, do you want to just, come back and do this, but paid a bit more? I was like, yeah. So I get that's not the situation for everyone. What I would say is that, particularly for students graduating now, particularly with the whole Instagram and Behance and all these platforms that they all kind of say, if you're not working for the top newsworthy consultancy, then it's not worth it. When in actual fact, that's really not the case at all.
I think it's the other way around. Actually, I think what people forget is that it's all about, when I talk to people in a recruitment sense, I talk a lot about what's your value proposition. Oh, I don't know what that word actually means, but someone told it to me once, and I thought it sounded quite good. What's your value?
Check out Brad sounding as stupid. I
That
want
was
to
a
hear
great
this.
note by us.
Yeah, what's your value proposition, right? So if we use Leia as the example, because obviously you're here, Leia are going to look at it and go, well, Sam's got 2 years of experience working in an agency. There's value there. So how can you gain the value that they're going to go, oh, I like the look of him or her. I want to invite them in for an interview. Now, to me, I would go, okay, what projects are they working on? So can I do something similar, but just not in London? Can I go international? Can I just get to grips with some consumer electronics bits? Just then 2 years later, you've done that bit. Then you can go back to your dream consultancy and say, look, got some experience now. The value's there, because they're going to go, oh, and that continues with you as you go throughout your career, where it might be a case of at Drew's level, they might look at someone with a little less experience, but they might go, okay, they've managed people, they've managed projects, they've got experience in X field. So there's a wider value there. It's all about what's your value. Looking back, not just looking at your final year project and going, would I employ me for that job? And if the answer is no, then sorry, it's a no. Sometimes it does take someone external like me just to say, look, I'm sorry, mate, but probably not interested. But here's how they might be. So relocate, go down to the coast, go down to an area where there's no such thing as, like, we've got this, we're building this map, aren't we, Drew? I mean, who me? Yeah.
I've been moving house. I've just been watching it when I can get internet.
Yeah, every now and again I just share.
Oh my god, that looks amazing! And then internet's gone.
Yeah.
So
every now and again I just share the screen with Drew and go, oh, we've got this map and it does this, and like, but you can see it's such a great visual example. Like Design Reality up in bloody North Wales somewhere. I can tell you, for example, when they're looking for someone, they're probably going, cool, there's not too many people locally, is there? You know, they're probably thinking, oh, I might have to sacrifice some things here, i.e. quality of certain bits of skill, or, you know, because it's just the talent pool locally. That's just how it generally works. Is that harsh or not? Is that harsh?
I would say that's
you are from
probably
Chester.
really, really true for so many agencies, and with Design Reality, like there's a good crop of like kids from North Wales who have gone to Loughborough, mostly Loughborough, because they have really good connections there in Loughborough, so they get very good students.
But
that
example,
as
names,
but you and I have a mutual friend, and probably several others. In fact, two that we've done a Christmas episode with, that are from North Wales, have worked there, and are now either doing, you know, like that are now doing.
But that's what I mean, right? So they've gone there, or let's use I'll try and use another company because, but in that kind of, in the extremes of the country, right? So you're like here, they've created the value, i.e. the experience in the relevant field, and then they've gone, I could probably earn a bit more money by going down to where it's happening. And the companies will look at it and go, do I just bring on a grad that doesn't really know a lot, or do I bring on this person that's got 4 years experience in a smaller agency? And then what does that mean? What does working in a smaller agency mean? Probably more likely to get client side interaction, probably more project management, you know, all of those things, all those interpersonal skills that come out. Would that person have touched upon things like marketing? Would that person have worked with different suppliers? You know, these are the skills, the value that people, rather than just putting SolidWorks 69% on your CV, these are the kind of things you need to start thinking about, of like creating your value. And it's always those things, when I start working with a company and you're talking about hiring, I can guarantee you I know who they're going to employ just by looking at their LinkedIn profile, because you just make a boatload of assumptions that normally get you very far. And you can, I always call it, could you imagine that person on their LinkedIn putting in new position, industrial designer at that company? Does that make sense? And there's very few occasions where it doesn't. I'd probably gone way off kind of piece there. But
Go on, Sam, chime in. We'll be on this all day.
Yeah, just shut me up, Sam.
I get what you mean about the value added and getting experience in that particular field, because that is very important. But what that does mean that even the juniors, if a company posts junior job, then it's needs 3 years experience, and where do you get that experience from? The way that I did it was I was slightly adjacent for a while, where I managed to get a small, tiny job at a company.
Do you call it recipe now? Do you call it precipice?
Oh no, the rest
before then.
Before them. This company was at a design fair, a careers fair at university, and they essentially were a yellow pages for film and TV equipment. So they would rent out the ARRI cameras and the RED cameras, the lighting rigs, and they were the company that rented them to the film production studios. And they needed someone to make some web banners to just say, ARRI lighting, contact us, blah, blah, blah. That's all they needed someone to do. And I was like, I can do that. I know Photoshop, I know Illustrator. And I got to work there and do that as a part-time thing while I was still studying. And it wasn't a high-flying, press-grabbing job, but it was a start. And it just so happened that their office was at Pinewood Studios, where they filmed James Bond and Star Wars and stuff. They had nothing to do with the production of it, and I wasn't allowed to see the Millennium Falcon while they were filming there. But I could go to the office and present, like, I've done these banners today, or this week, and they said, that's great, okay, off you go then. So for a little bit, I got to say I worked at Pinewood Studios, and it sounds a lot bigger than what it was. But that was the first rung, that was the first step. And then off that, I then have it wasn't design work really. It was grabbing a picture, grabbing a, contact us and putting it in Photoshop or Illustrator, whatever it was. And that was enough to then say, okay, I've had a job that can go on the CV. Now I can look for the next rung on the step. And the next rung was an internship. And, it does build up and take time. But, like you say, it's like adjacent creative jobs you can kind of pull from and say, oh yeah, I was client side, but it wasn't design. It was this a bit more. And then, yeah, but I think there is, for me as a someone who has looked for jobs, in the past 2 or 3 years, when a company says, junior hiring, and you go, great, like, let me look, and it says must have 3 or 4 years experience. It's like, where do I get that from? It's a junior position.
But have you applied to those jobs and they turn around to you and said, sorry, you don't have enough experience? Or is that just something they're putting in their adverts that might be as a screening mechanism to get rid of people that have zero experience?
Yeah, it could potentially be a deterrent to just make people not apply if they really don't think they have that experience. But if you can pull, my point is, if you can pull from any other field or any other job you may have had, but it has to kind of be relevant, because on my YouTube channel I do portfolio reviews, so I see a bunch of portfolios, and I do still see students putting in like, my experience. I was a shop assistant, working weekends, and I get where they're coming from, because it's like, you respond, you turn up, you do the work, and it's great to be responsible. I get that. But if someone else on their CV has a design job, internship, and something ever so slightly more close, then of course they're probably going to be chosen over the retail person.
There are some ones though that you do look at, but very much I don't do junior recruitment, so by the time they get to the point where I get involved, I bloody hope they had some design experience, otherwise they got no chance. But like, if you look at something like someone that's been a waiter, for example, I think that's a bloody tough gig. They're dealing with awkward people. it's fast paced. You know, if you're working in spoons, you're dealing with a drunk lot in spoons, and all that involves. There's actually a lot about your own personal characteristics that I would.
Yeah, I'd put that in like other experiences or something. To be honest, because like again, you know, I know we're running out of time now. We're approaching 10:02, and I want to get to some of the listener questions. But yeah, it's like you might really like mountain biking. You might really like you might be great at the piano or know a lot of stuff about cameras, and those contribute. They show that you've studied, you've learned, you've improved, you've done all that. Yeah, you've had customer facing roles and stuff, but I wouldn't have. In fact, I don't think I did put my years of working at a butcher's on a design CV because I didn't design anything there. It's that simple.
Got some listener questions, Sam, and between me and you, some of them are really weird. And I'm presuming that you may.
Stop that.
Well, to be honest with you, I'm hoping that you may be able to relate to this because I put something on Instagram earlier which said, we've got Sam coming on our thing. Anyone got any questions? And some of the questions that I got asked were just weird. And I just think, do you get that when you put up your, I don't know, it's late. Anyone ask me a question before I go to bed or something? Some of them are just like, just never had that before until I said, I presume you're used to it.
Some of them are pretty weird.
Yeah.
Yeah. But the benefit is, you know, with the way that Instagram asks their question, you can just choose to not, well, I always choose to not answer it.
Of course, yeah.
And then I say, oh, I've run out of time. Sorry.
There was just one particular question about like, is our NFTs decolonizing or something? I was like, what the fuck are you asking me?
Yeah, no, I saw that one.
No.
What the fuck are you asking? Was you inspired?
It was about decolonizing, right? And about is design still very much Western based? I can't remember how it was worded, but the word decolonize was in there.
Like, yeah, it's too early for it's a Monday morning. People can't be saying decolonizing to me on a Monday morning. I'm sorry.
It's interesting. But I don't know if any one of us, I mean, I can't speak for Sam. I don't know if
I ain't got a clue. Have you got a clue on that one, Sam?
A global view.
Was it about NFTs in particular?
It was about something to do with NFTs.
Was it?
I'm really not a big fan of NFTs anyway.
I don't understand NFTs. I mean, anyone that's selling like little prints, if anyone's actually buying them, I mean, just get a grip. I'm honestly, but that's just my personal view on that. I'll edit that bit out just in case I upset anyone. But we did
at least remember the wording of the question if we could ask.
Yes, yeah. But ask a proper question and I'll remember the wording of it. But we did have one from a chap called Kevin, which I quite liked, and it was basically kind of asking you where you think industrial design will be over the next 5 years or so. I suppose it's you're now. I don't know what forest you're in at the minute, whether it's open or whatever, but as you're getting to the next period of your life, where do you see industrial design going? Do you see it as something that's going to stay as this little cottage industry? What kind of changes do you see for better or for worse?
I do think that there will be a continual shift to merge industrial design teams with digital, UX and UI, because it's all part and parcel of product design. So that's going to continue to happen. I mean, it is interesting for me because I've only ever worked consultancy side.
Right.
So we have the pleasure of just saying, you know, we've come up with these ideas, you can take them or leave them. But pay us. Whereas for the companies that you know, they're putting a lot of money into tooling and producing and the whole ecosystem with AI and smart stuff. To me, it almost feels like we will come to like a boom of smart stuff soon over the next 2-3 years, and then there will just be an exodus of complete and utter, like the same way that vinyl has been making a comeback because of its sound quality, because of its tactile feel, because of its, you know, it's just visceral experience.
Exactly. It's just nice. It's just a nice thing to put a record on.
Exactly. Yeah. And I really think that we'll have this overindulgence of smart tech, and then we'll go, you know what, is this actually helping anything? And then there will be an exodus of it. That's kind of the way that, it's almost the way that I hope it goes, because it'll get real again. So that's what I imagine. But in that meantime, the merging of systems design, in terms of, if you buy, a Ring doorbell, is it called Ring anymore? The Amazon doorbell, all built into the system, and the product, the industrial design is like the packaging of the system. It's the physical purchase that you buy, but you're buying into that system. And as we all know, Google's a great example. They'll launch some software, and then 6 months down the line, it's either got a different name, or they've shut it down, or it's closed, and then you can't use that software anymore. What happens when Amazon starts to shut down their doorbell servers and the doorbell doesn't work?
Well, it's all right, because Drew's got an idea about house keys, haven't you, Drew? You said last week about put your face on your door and then, I don't know, you let someone in or something. Drew, you already had an idea for that.
Yeah, it was when we were talking to John, wasn't it, a few weeks ago? But that's not an idea necessarily. It was just, we were talking about final year projects, I think, and I said how one of my final year projects for my master's was around using your fingerprints and so on to open doors, and say, a key works really well, but there's more that we can do, and for some people that's an improvement, for some people it's not. I can't remember exactly what we talked about, but we can scan faces. So,
we were amazed. We were amazed, Drew, weren't we? By when we did we went to Nottingham-Trent virtually about a week or so ago, Sam, and we did a concept showcase. So all of the students showed us their final year stuff, and we were amazed by just how much there was. Not a lot of physical product stuff, a lot of service back. And this is a product design course, but the actual like nuts and bolts of the project, a lot of it was quite service based.
And I think it's fair to say that's not going to be just at NTU. That's going to be it was just a typical indicator of which way the wind's blowing. Also, Kevin asked the question: is that our Kevin?
Kevin Quigley, yeah. Our Kevin.
It's Kevin Quigley.
Big Kev. We just I said Drew's got some chicken. I know he's quite keen to tap into some chicken. Yeah. I can see it in his face. We've been doing it for a while now. But we have one final question we ask to everyone before they go. We've had some weird answers to this, but I think design is quite weird, so it's quite nice to get some weird answers. And the question is, what's the strangest brief you've ever seen? I don't know if you've got any. You've done some agency stuff. You may have seen. Surely someone's gone to Mr. Hubert with some strange stuff.
The issue is, I don't know at what point I can talk about it. Which I know that's always the answer everyone gives.
That's the answer everyone's given.
Yeah. There's. No, I won't even try and answer it, because if I do, I know I'll have to message you and say, actually, can you take that bit out? But there is a lot of, as humans and as pet owners and everything, there's a lot of waste in the world, and that needs to be sorted. So my search history is weird with that one. Get some very weird targeted adverts coming through. But yeah,
do you ever get any on Instagram from like fans, where it's like, Sam, I got this idea, and you just think, God, no.
No, I never. I know. I do. I get a lot of people just asking. Well, actually, maybe this is my time to stop this in its tracks. But I just get a lot of people saying, "Hey, how are you? I need your help." I'm like, what?
I obviously thought that was another sentence. Yeah.
No, I need your help. I'm like, okay, are you in trouble or like whatever? It's a lot of people that
call 999.
It's but
I'm not qualified.
Wrong number.
Do you know, you've just reminded me, sorry to interrupt, but like I get daily messages and there'll be 1, 2, 3, 4. And then they're like, the 5th message might be, I'm sorry, I'll leave you alone now. But it's like on LinkedIn saying, we make prototyping. Yeah.
The prototyping people, they're out in force, aren't they?
Yes.
Oh my God.
They won't be on the map. They won't be on the map. We're not letting them.
It's constant. It's like we do rapid prototyping CNC. It's like,
Good for you. Just whilst you're here, I've got it behind me. We're doing a giveaway, and we've had a grand total of 0 entries. So this is a final plug for this.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I'm just giving it to Drew, basically. So I've got some notepads, and I've also got. It's from DotGrid, so apparently they're quite good. I don't know. And we've also got 2 £20 Honest Brew vouchers. Now, Honest Brew is just where you buy beer, basically. So I can't think of why anyone wouldn't want that.
That sounds great. Yeah.
It sounds like a great prize. Well, all you've got to do. Go on, Drew. You're talking.
I was going to say, like Kevin submitted a question. So
Kevin's probably going to get one. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, big.
Yeah, I think if no one else chimes in, Kevin gets one.
Yeah, Kevin gets one, and then Drew gets the other one. But all you've got to do is on your Instagram story post. We're not fussed. We're not fussed over here. Just tag a picture of you listening to the podcast. Like you could be on your walk. You could be at your desk. Send us a picture of you listening to the podcast. Tag us in, and no one's entered. So you've got a bloody good chance. You've got a bloody good chance.
I'm sure I saw a screenshot from Vish.
No.
Is this announcement for people who will be listening to this episode?
We'll try and get this. The expiry's on the 4th of May. So my plan was to try and get this out before the 4th of May.
Right.
So here we go. All he's heard is he said £20 Honest Brew voucher, and he's gone, right, bang. You don't need to go outside. I know we can go outside now, but pre-drinks, on Design Truth, and then you can crack on at your heart's content.
Pre-drinks, fucking hell, do you remember the days?
I'm starting to get to a point where I can't really remember those days anymore, but there you go. So we're doing that. So it expires on the 4th of May. We're hoping we can get 2 episodes out before then. So you've got 2 bloody chances of winning. If I know you've moved house, I'm more than willing to edit that one if needs be. I'll let Drew edit one, and he's moved house, so he's got a good excuse. And
had no internet since I went, yeah, I'll do it.
Yeah. So that's the giveaway. We just giving away some notebooks and some vouchers. What about your mate Mike Carr? We'll finish up because
actually, yeah,
we did an episode. We did an episode with a guy called Mike Carr, and I lost the recording of it. So I should say sorry to Mike Carr, and he's also in hospital at the minute. So not because of the episode not being recorded, because he's got himself into a little bike accident. Unrelated. But wish you well, Mike Carr, because I thought he was a lovely fellow when I spoke to him, and he's your mate from uni.
Super, super nice guy. Always got time for Mike. And go and look up Uniform Wears as well. Beautiful watches.
God, you're better at this than the sponsorship ones. You're better at the pitching than the sponsorship bits. But he's broken everything, basically, Mike Carr. His foot, his hip, his collarbone. I don't know.
I don't have a chance to catch up yet, but
I don't know. I don't think he's got a lot left, to be fair, from what I saw on Instagram. But better luck to him. And thanks for joining us, Sam. Thanks for coming on and spending your Monday evening.